Okay, which of the following muscle forms the floor of digastric triangle? Okay, so digastric triangle floor is formed by which of the following muscles? So for this it is important to know the digastric triangle location and its floor. Okay, so let's see the image first, the diagram. So in this diagram, let me just highlight the submandibular triangle. The other name of digastric triangle is submandibular triangle. So this is the submandibular triangle which is highlighted here, and let me just highlight it with pink color. Now this, the area which I have highlighted is digastric triangle. Let me just highlight this image also. Okay, so it is bounded, as you can see, antero-inferiorly by, it is bounded by anterior belly of digastric, posterior aspect, it is posterior-inferiorly by posterior belly of digastric along with stylohyoid muscle. And upper aspect or the base, if we talk about the upper aspect or the base, if I take this as the base, it is formed by the base of the mandible extending towards the mastoid process, and apex is lower down at the level of hyoid bone. So this marks the boundaries of it, and along with it, it is important for us to know what is the floor, because in the MCQ the floor muscle has been asked. So now, well visualized, well you are knowing about the boundaries. Now coming to, just write quickly the boundaries. So boundaries of digastric triangle, and as we have discussed, digastric triangle is also called as submandibular triangle. Submandibular triangle. Okay, digastric triangle is also called as submandibular triangle. It is bounded, following boundaries are it. It is bounded antero-inferiorly by anterior belly of digastric muscle, anterior belly of digastric muscle, posterior-inferiorly by posterior belly of digastric muscle plus stylohyoid muscle, Okay, now moving to the apex and the base. Apex is formed by intermediate okay, so at that connection, no, exactly, there is intermediate tendon of digastric muscle. Base is formed by mandibular bone base and an imaginary line extending from which is joining the angle of mandible to mastoid process. Okay, after that, moving to the floor muscle and that of the roof. So floor is formed by following muscle: mylohyoid muscle, which is forming the anterior part of the floor. So it is forming anterior part of the floor, and posterior part of the floor is formed by hyoglossus muscle. Hyoglossus muscle is an important muscle of tongue, which is forming posterior part of the floor, and actually along with these two muscles on the posterior aspect, there are few fibers of middle constrictor muscle. So middle constrictor muscle of the pharynx is also contributing in the formation of the floor of submandibular triangle or the digastric triangle. Roof is formed by investing layer of deep cervical fascia. Okay, So we have done with this. Important content is, you as you know, that submandibular gland, so only it is called as submandibular triangle. So let's move to the MCQ. Which of the following muscle forms the floor of digastric triangle? The correct answer will be mylohyoid. Okay, not the geniohyoid, not the stylohyoid, and not the sternohyoid. It is formed by mylohyoid muscle along with hyoglossus muscle. Now moving to the 7th MCQ. Now, which of the following passes through the lower triangular interval of arm? Now, when you will do the dissection on the posterior aspect of the scapular region, there you can find one quadrangular space and two triangular spaces. So, some of the important structures passes through this quadrangular and triangular space. So, let's see. So, after discussion of that spaces, then we will come in solving this MCQ. Okay. So, let's see. This is again a schematic diagram in which you can know the boundaries of quadrangular and triangular spaces. So let me just firstly highlight the boundary of quadrangular space. So I have made a quadrangular space, as you can see. Okay, yeah. So this is bounded. So I will just explain it. It is bounded. The quadrangular space is bounded superiorly by which muscle? Teres minor muscle. It is bounded inferiorly by teres major muscle. So this is the teres major muscle which is forming inferior boundary. This is the teres minor muscle which is forming the superior boundary. And medially it is formed by long head of triceps muscle. So this muscle which is passing vertically lower down, this which is oblique in direction, this is long head of triceps muscle, and this is forming the medial boundary for quadrangular space. And what is formed on the lateral aspect? Lateral aspect, what you can see is the humerus bone. So surgical neck of the humerus bone, this is the bone. This surgical neck is forming its lateral boundary. So done, we have done with the boundaries of quadrangular space. So let me just write here Q. So this is the quadrangular space, and now we are knowing the boundaries of quadrangular space. Now discussing with the other two spaces, one is upper triangular space and the another is lower triangular space. So firstly with the upper triangular space is bounded superiorly again by teres minor muscle, lower down on the inferior aspect by teres major muscle, and it is bounded laterally by the long head of triceps, Okay, now coming to the description of lower triangular space boundary. Lower triangular space boundary, it is bounded laterally by that of the humerus bone, as you can see, shaft of the humerus, medially by long head of triceps. So this is the triceps muscle, this is forming medial boundary, yeah, and it is bounded superiorly by that of teres major muscle. So this diagram is showing all the boundaries of all the spaces, as we can see. Okay, so okay, so we have done with the boundaries of all these spaces. So let's see what important structures is passing through these structures. So through quadrangular space, one nerve and one artery. So quadrangular space, I am marking yellow color with the nerve. So the nerve which is passing is axillary nerve, and the artery which is passing here is from this space is posterior circumflex humeral artery. I am writing in short form, posterior circumflex humeral artery. So one nerve and one artery is passing through this space, axillary nerve and posterior circumflex humeral artery. When we talk about upper triangular space, through upper triangular space only one structure passes, and that is circumflex scapular artery. Only one structure, that is circumflex scapular artery. Through lower triangular space, we have got one artery and one nerve. So that is, the artery is profunda brachii artery, and the nerve is radial nerve. So the nerve which is passing here is, this nerve is radial nerve. So two structures from the lower triangular space, one is the radial nerve and other is profunda brachii artery. So in this single image, we have seen all the spaces and we have seen all the structures passing through these spaces. So let's move to the MCQ. Which of the following structures passes through lower triangular space in the arm? So lower triangular space passes the nerve passing is the radial nerve, and the artery passing is profunda brachii artery. So the correct answer will be radial nerve, lower triangular space. Now moving to the next MCQ. Which foramina doesn't transmit any kind of emissary veins? Okay, so which of the foraminas is not connected with the passage of any emissary vein? So what do you mean by the word emissary veins? Okay, so let's see the option. The options are foramen cecum, anterior ethmoidal foramen, parietal foramen, mastoid foramen. Okay, so many foramens are there as marked in the MCQ. And firstly, I just want to tell you what is emissary veins. Actually, emissary veins are the veins which is connecting external veins of the scalp with that of the venous which is lying inside the cranial cavity. Okay, it connects with the dural venous sinuses. So it forms a passage for the external infections of the scalp to drain into the internal dural venous sinuses. So let's discuss each of the foramina and then we will come to this MCQ. So the first is, so can you see in this diagram the green color area which is highlighted? So this is the green color area which is highlighted, and this is the location of foramen cecum. What is it? It is foramen cecum. And through foramen cecum, what passes? Yes, through foramen cecum passes the emissary vein. Okay, so yes, it is right. The emissary vein passes, and this emissary vein will form a connection for the nasal mucosa and that of superior sagittal sinus. So yes, emissary vein is passing through it, no doubt. Emissary vein passes from the nasal mucosa. So this can't be the answer. Okay. Now moving to the other MCQs option. So there was also mentioned anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramen. One of the foramina was mentioned. Now starting with the second option, that was anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramen. So as you can see, this is the cribriform plate, and on the anterior and posterior aspect there is anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramens. Okay. Now coming to the description of what passes through these foramina. So it's very easy to memorize. According to the name, the structures passes through it. So anterior, through anterior, and that of posterior ethmoidal foramen. The structures which passes are following. The structures passing is anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves. Anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves. Anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves are the branch of ophthalmic division of nasociliary nerve. Nasociliary nerves. And as you know, nasociliary nerve is a branch of ophthalmic division, which is again a branch of trigeminal nerve. And also arteries and vein corresponding to its name. So anterior and posterior ethmoidal arteries, anterior and posterior ethmoidal arteries, and these are the branch of ophthalmic artery. Okay, these are the branch from ophthalmic artery. Now moving to the next, that is anterior and posterior ethmoidal, also passes anterior and posterior ethmoidal veins, and these are actually tributaries of ophthalmic vein. So done, we have done with the proper explanation of the second option also. Now moving to the third option. So let me just enlarge this diagram. Can you see this foramen? This foramen is mastoid foramen. This foramen is mastoid foramen. And what passes through mastoid foramen? So the next thing is, what passes through mastoid foramen? So mastoid emissary vein. What passes? Mastoid emissary veins. So till now we have seen what the option provided in the MCQ. The mastoid foramen through this, and also the cecum foramen through this, the emissary vein is passing. Okay, so this mastoid emissary vein which is passing through it is forming connection with sigmoid sinus. Internally it can drain into sigmoid sinus, means the infection can go towards the sigmoid dural venous sinuses. So Now moving to the fourth option. So with the yellow color, let me just enlarge it. Okay, so with the yellow color arrow, the structures which you can see, there is two dots on either side, and this is parietal foramen. What is it? It is parietal foramen. And what passes through parietal foramen? Parietal emissary veins. Parietal emissary vein. And this parietal emissary vein is forming communication with or draining into SSS. What is SSS? Superior sagittal sinus. Superior sagittal sinus. So we have done with all the option provided in this MCQ. So let's see the correct answer now. Which of the following foramen does not transmit emissary vein? The correct answer to this will be, so as we have seen, foramen cecum, yes, through it passes the mucosal vein, emissary vein, which form connection with superior sagittal sinus. Parietal vein, yes, parietal emissary vein forming connection with that of the SSS, superior sagittal sinus. Mastoid foramen, through it passes again the mastoid emissary vein forming connection with sigmoid sinus. So correct answer is anterior ethmoidal foramina, because both anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramina, through this passes ethmoidal nerves and vessel according to its name, whether it is anterior or posterior. So this is the correct answer of the MCQ. Now moving to the ninth MCQ. Chagassi-Nack tubercle is present where? Chagassi-Nack tubercle is present where? So the correct answer will be Chagassi-Nack tubercle. So let me first describe what is Chagassi-Nack tubercle, and then I will come to it. So actually see this diagram. Okay, so what you can appreciate, this is actually also called as carotid tubercle. This is also called as carotid tubercle. Okay, and the other name of Chagassi-Nack tubercle is carotid tubercle, and this is actually excuse me, this is actually anterior tubercle on C6 cervical vertebra. This is actually anterior tubercle of C6 cervical vertebra, and this is important as why it's named as carotid tubercle, because we can also sometimes it can compress the carotid artery. Okay, so when it is well developed, what is the name, why it is? So when carotid tubercle, which is also called as Chagassi-Nack tubercle, is well developed, means it's very well developed, what will happen? It is well developed, there can be risk of compression of common carotid artery. It's well developed, so there can be, what is the thing happening? There can be risk of common carotid artery compression. There can be risk of common carotid artery compression, CCA, that is common carotid artery compression. Okay. Now coming to association fibers include all of the following except. Okay. So the options are corona radiata, arcuate fasciculus, cingulum, or uncinate fasciculus. Okay. Corona radiata, arcuate fasciculus, cingulum, and uncinate fasciculus. Okay. So association. So firstly I want to tell you what you mean by the word association fibers. Actually association fibers means they are connecting different areas of the same cerebral hemisphere. Okay, so we have got two cerebral hemisphere, one is right, another is the left, and each the fibers, white fibers of the brain which is connecting different area inside the same cerebral hemisphere, they are called as, they are association fibers. And so association fibers will always be intrahemispheric. It will be intrahemispheric. It will be intrahemispheric, means inside one cerebral hemisphere. So in this diagram all the types of association fibers name is given. One is limbic association fibers, which is called as cingulum. One is fronto-occipital bundle short association fibers, that is arcuate fasciculus, called as superior longitudinal fasciculus, and there is one more that is called as inferior and superior longitudinal fasciculus. So what is shown in the diagram is inferior longitudinal fasciculus. Okay, so these are the names of association fibers. Now one more diagram I will show you. Here what you can see, the different types of fibers. So we have already done with the discussion of association fibers. Now here we can see the commissural fibers and that of projection fibers. Projection fibers. Now I will just explain in brief. Now can you see there is corpus callosum. Actually corpus callosum is an example of commissural fibers. So what do you mean by the word commissural fibers? Commissural fibers means the fibers which is connecting two different cerebral hemispheres. So it is, as you can see here in the diagram, this is right and this is the left cerebral hemisphere, and the fibers which is connecting it is the corpus callosum. So these type of fibers, commissural fibers, will be always interhemispheric. It will be interhemispheric, connecting one hemisphere with the other. Now coming to the third type, that is projection fibers. So projection fibers means this will connect the cortical areas of the brain with the subcortical areas. So they are long fibers. So see here, one of the example is internal capsule, another is corona radiata. So same corona radiata lower down becomes condensed and forms the internal capsule. So these are examples of projection fibers which is connecting cortical areas of brain with that of subcortical areas. Subcortical areas. So let's move to the MCQ again. Association fibers are all of the following except, okay, so uncellate fasciculus, cingulum and arcuate fasciculus, these are all example of association fibers. The correct answer will be corona radiata. Corona radiata is an example of projection fibers connecting cortical parts of the brain with the subcortical areas.